Aqui vocês têm os meus números de contato. Temos outros escritores de contato em Nova York e Moscou. E agora vocês veem uma foto que eu acho importante também. Vocês veem, somos bons em pesquisa e em inovação, mas também no futebol. Não sei se isso é interessante, importante aqui no Brasil, acho que sim, mas quem sabe de futebol sabe que o atual bicampeão, né, recentemente, o Borussia Dortmund, vem da nossa região e também temos um pequeno orgulho disso. Agora, iria a segunda parte da minha palestra, que é a outra apresentação.
Muito bem, senhoras e senhores, anuncio agora o Prêmio Nobel para Empreendimentos e Mobilidade Sustentável. Eu passo a palavra à professora Susan Zielinski, diretora da Universidade de Michigan. Secretário, por favor, Gil Watts, ocupe seu lugar na mesa, por favor. Professora Susan, please.
Welcome to the Modi Prize Awards. I'm delighted to be here to share the good news story today. Mobi is not about the whale, it's short for Smart Mobility Enterprise. And the Mobi Prize is an award for innovation, entrepreneurship, and new business models in new mobility. So it's specifically for businesses. It's not for any innovation, it's new business innovation in sustainable transportation. So I'm going to tell you a little story if you can bear with me. It all started when Gustavo Cesario of the state, you've seen him around, and Augusto Matias, a Toronto-based but Brazilian urbanist and visionary, and Gustavo's a visionary too. And they got talking about how to encourage young entrepreneurs to start up sustainable businesses and enterprises. And I guess, I don't know how they feel about it at this point, but the next thing they did was they got in touch with me. And I'm at SMART. And SMART is a University of Michigan cross-university multidisciplinary program. And the main goal or the main activity of SMART is to advance the implementation of sustainable transportation in an urbanizing world. So the whole idea is, yes, it's about research and education, but it's very much to promote and catalyze action. And it's also about advancing the development of a sustainable industry cluster that's going to supply the future of the transportation industry, of the sustainable transportation industry. And this is particularly an interesting thing to do, being in the Detroit region, which is the home of, an original home of transportation innovation. And it's a place where we're hoping it's going to transform into new mobility innovation and industry. So Gustavo and Augusto and I started tossing ideas around, and it somehow morphed into a prize for new mobility entrepreneurs. So what's new mobility? Really quickly, the simple way is to think about it as moving people, moving goods, and moving less. Because sometimes we think only about moving people, and sometimes we don't think about how we get our stuff around. And also, sometimes we don't have to move, so we can have local production and distribution or telework. We can avoid trips altogether. So we want to do that in ways that are cleaner, greener, safer, healthier, more aesthetic, and supportive of a vibrant economy that's sustainable. So what happened then was it kind of was organic, because this starting to seem interesting to a number of partners and funders. And for example, the state of Rio early on was very supportive of this work. So with that, I'm very honored to again introduce the Secretary of State Minister of Transport, Mr. Julio Lopez, to say a few words of welcome.
Bom, mais uma vez, para nós é extraordinário estarmos participando da entrega desses prêmios. Essa é uma oportunidade incrível de estarmos estimulando as pessoas e convidando-as a pensar um mundo melhor e diferente para legarmos um futuro mais sustentável e feliz para os nossos cidadãos. Obrigado.
Well, I'm very impressed. That was the shortest talk we've seen yet. It was brilliant. Thank you. And then the Rockefeller Foundation became very interested in new business models relating to sustainable transportation, and particularly what kind of new business models could serve the urban poor, as well as serving more and more people in this urbanizing planet. And so, unfortunately, Benjamin de la Peña, who is our main connection at Rockefeller, wasn't able to be here, but we have Bridget Jones Sunda here, and I don't know if you can put up your hand. So if you'd like to chat with her later, that would be great. And also Ford Motor Company, IBM, Alcoa Foundation, all gained an interest in this idea of linking business with sustainable transportation from an entrepreneurial point of view. And then a few visionaries at large got interested in it. Enrique Peñalosa was going to be with us this evening, but got called away. So what happened was we started to also see more and more proof of the kind of emerging business models related to sustainable transportation globally. So what I'd like to introduce to you Danielle Guillen from ASOG in Manila, the Philippines, who does deep research into transportation and is now working on new mobility solutions as a trend. And so Danielle, you can stay here, you can come up here.
Very much, Zelensky. So it's my pleasure to present to you our innovative business models for inclusive mobility. Some case studies all over the world, but basically we also want to show you what's really happening in developing countries. So next, please. So basically, our program is actually innovations at the base of the pyramid. It started as like focusing on science and technology, and now we're focusing on the mobility aspect of it. So first, let me define to you what we mean by base of the pyramid, right? So it's not, well, we all know that it constitutes about 90% of our population, the world's total population, which is like $2, living on $2 a day, given the international standards. And it's a reality, I think, and I think we all know about the favelas of Rio and Brazil, and we have that in most developing countries like the Philippines. So worldwide, the statistics show that the average of 33% of population of big cities live in slums and informal settlements. And in Metro Manila, actually, our studies show that there's like 30% of the metro population really living in these areas. And slum communities and the poor have been previously used as immediate scapegoats for the worsening traffic conditions, maybe because they go on the standard road and they like use public transport. So this is like an example of what we're talking about, base of the pyramid. Next, please. So then when we talk about the people at the base of the pyramid, we talk about the vulnerable sector, and who are those who belongs to the vulnerable sector. And these are those who by circumstances are placed at the disadvantage in whatever living human conditions, such as their physical disability, as the pictures can show on the other on our slide here. We have like blind people taking our public utility jeepneys. So that's one. Sorry. Yeah. And then of course, in most, especially in the case of Metro Manila, we actually have very narrow pedestrians in many areas. And it's actually like, a common example or illustration of what you can see in most cities, and particularly in their city. So next please. And then we talk about our definition of new mobility is actually talking about inclusive mobility. And when we say inclusive mobility, it's basically a transport system that works for the poor and vulnerable. And now we want one that is walkable, bikeable, and accessible. So accessible to all modes of public transport or vehicle, for that matter. And it means moving people and not vehicle. And I'm one of the transport planner. We usually talk about traffic. If you read many of the news clippings, it's always about we're having issues on traffic. But actually, it's all about how do we move with people. And yes, mobility with safety and civilities. And then, of course, if you can move people on the most efficient and sustainable way, it means that you have clean air, clean streets, you need clean streets and clean vehicles and facilities. So there's when we say inclusive mobility, mapping and communicating better and traveling less. And of course, sharing this information to increase connectivity and accessibility. And as you can show, we've tried some mapping activity in Metro Manila. Next, please. So it's basically making our neighborhoods more accessible to the rest of the city and changing that mindset, behaviors of authorities as well as ours. And when we say mobility, it should be for mobility of all, by all, and for all. So this is like what's happening in my country. I'm not sure about it. It's not common here in Brazil, but normally you can see this in many developing countries, this kind of overpass pedestrian. Next, please. So then I now go to, the topic, sharing what's really happening worldwide. And you can see some examples of innovative business models really focusing on inclusive mobility. And right now, there's this common trend on the utilizing bicycle for mobility of people, and of course logistics. And it's interesting that it's really good to see here in Rio that you have some bike sharing program, and it's something that we're trying to advocate in my country, and I think in other Asian countries too. It's not common to see bike parks or really this kind of innovation. And then we also noticed that, of course, bikes now are used for tourism, which is another model of another business model. And I think Amsterdam is a very good model of that, and I tried to use that when I was in Amsterdam. But these things is something that need to be promoted in many developing countries. But you have to understand that we need to fix the infrastructures when we go side by side. And then, of course, there's bikes manufacturing for sustainable livelihood. So, in the Philippines, we also have the Philippine Bambi bike. It just started, so it's not they were able to join the competition, but it's basically utilizing bamboo for ecological technology. And I think one of the winners here from Africa also had the same concept. So these things are the kind of sustainable livelihood that as part of a business model can promote it. And then, of course, we have what we call bikes for education. Why bike for education? And how come it became a business model? So, an example of this is in universities. I think not many, it's really interesting to study this sector because I think not many universities in developing countries already have this kind of program. So, it just started in the Philippines 4 years ago, and the idea is really those students who have less is that they can borrow the bicycle. It's subsidized by some groups, and that they can rent the bicycle instead of using public transport. So for a bikeable distance. And then there's also one project being implemented that was started last year. It's actually Bike for the Philippines, meaning providing bicycles for the students in one town in the Philippines. And the idea is that the statistics show that many students actually drop out of school simply because they have to walk like 3 to 5 kilometers back and forth. So it's not really a really walkable distance for the students. But can you just imagine that these are the students who do not have anything, and they really belong to the poorest of the poor in that city. So there's now this kind of business model that the Bike for the Philippines is like trying to implement in the Philippines, and this is really providing these bikes. But at the same time, they want to have a livelihood out of this bicycle, and I think they're trying now to integrate bicycle for tourism and like letting the kids also understand how in the future it can be a good business for them. So this is not only in the Philippines, but I also part of our research shows that it's already happening in India. So we talk about the bicycle. So it's an emerging business model in many cities and many areas in developing countries. So next, please. Then we talk about the integration of ICT, or information, communication, and technology as part of this new business model. I mentioned about bicycle. It's interesting that in our study, we call it the Bikes for Smart Logistics. So as you know, Metro Manila is like a very big city, and there's many CBDs or central business districts, and there's the need to deliver some of the letters within our products, and now they're utilizing the bicycle for that. But the other thing that's really interesting is those for people with disability. We have what we call the Bill Mobile. It's like a dial-up ride for the handicapped people in my country. So this is part of the research, and you can see the utilization of vehicle. And now part of the study shows that we need to understand the cost to really make it effective for the handicapped. Next, please. And the reality in many developing countries, I think you're familiar with the ambulant push carts, and sometimes the use of motor vehicle or tricycles for that matter. And you can see the street metro in urban communities that are usually considered informal. And this kind of ambulant push carts are actually the ones you can see in many informal settlers. So it's something that we're also trying to understand why it's continuously existing in many cities. So that's the third one. And of course, you might be surprised how come the Farthest Day initiative in Asia, and this is an example in Pasig, is part of the business model. I know that it's happening in Jakarta and in many cities, and here in Rio, I understand here in Brazil, you have a Farthest Day once a year, if I'm not mistaken. In my country, we were quite happy to share with you that one city adopted a carless Sunday. So meaning every Sunday, they would have a carless day. But why is it a business model? It's a business model because it's not just making the city carless, but it's actually trying to introduce new business inside the area. And for example, in this case, this is in one CBD, which is called Pasig Ortigas Center. And the idea is that, as you know, those people in the tall buildings are now, we call it condominium living, are not really integrated within the area. So part of our recommendation to the city is actually to come up with what are the new business that can be utilized on weekends. And this is one, you see bike rentals, just for to introduce the idea that cycling can be fun. And we've got those family meetups and Segway were actually introduced, and of course how to enjoy the city. But more than that, next please. We want to show you that there are entrepreneurial or business opportunities that can be done on the streets, maybe a part of the area, like health street and showing organic plants for sale, recycling newspapers, and of course food. So there's this kind of call for business model. And the interesting thing is that we also have issues on how can we go there to the area, right? And it's the idea of introducing mobility, the connectivity entrance and park those cars. And we said, yeah, that's the idea. We're not really telling you not to use your car. If you want to come by car, you leave car and then you find the parking space. And that's somehow, or you do carpooling activity. So those are the kind of innovation that hopefully in the future, not just in Manila but in other cities, can be realized. So with that, next please. We would like to share with you some of our preliminary insights and findings that there are innovative business models that right now, especially utilizing the bicycles, and that can be really used in urban areas. And then that even if there was no proper facilities for them or the infrastructure is not built, there are already this kind of advocacy to really make your road shared to the people. And then, of course, there's already the integration of ICT or the information communication technology, the use of your phones. And now you can utilize it in many areas, many modes. And then, of course, the initiative of, normally some of these initiatives started as like a volunteer group, but then eventually it became like a business. So that's some of the learnings that we would like to share with you at the end-to-end representation.
Thank you, Danielle. Danielle is here with her colleague, Segundo Doy Romero, also from the Ateneo School of Government, which is a partner in the Rockefeller-funded Catalyzing the New Mobility in Cities project. So we had an idea, and we had some partners that were interested, and we had some proof that we were thinking in a good way from the research. And then what evolved was a really crack working team. So I'm going to ask Augusto Matias to come up and just tell us about the working group that made this all happen.
Eu vou falar bem rapidinho para não tomar muito tempo, porque senão vocês fazem ouvir os ganhadores do prêmio. Tivemos várias horas em Skype, tivemos várias pessoas em várias partes do mundo, e eu gostaria de mencionar o nome das pessoas pelo tempo que eles não puderam estar aqui hoje. Como já mencionou, Augusto Matias fez parte do grupo, Gustavo Cesário, e Andrew Russell, da África do Sul, a Gail James, da África do Sul também, Kamal Anand, da Índia, e Dee Dhanaraj, da Índia também. Então todas as pessoas passaram horas, acordaram 3 horas da manhã, 4, depende, nós fizemos rodízios de horário para poder encontrar horários que não podiam fazer bem cedo pela manhã. Então foi ótimo o trabalho de todo mundo, a dedicação que tiveram. Eu acho que tem que ser mencionado as pessoas aqui, então é super bem falar. Então estou aqui como representante do grupo de trabalho. Obrigado.
Then we realized we needed to get some judges involved, because if there was going to be a award, we needed some judges. So it was really a wonderful process to have recommendations of these great people. And Celine de Cruz and Sonia Kadamigara signed on from Slum Dwellers International to give a perspective not of the transportation side, but of the urban core and transportation. Mayan Chang of Cisco Systems, Martin Kelly of the IBM Entrepreneurs Camp, Philippe Christ of the OECD International Transportation Forum, and David Burdish, who is lead human rights and sustainability at Ford Motor Company. So we had this nice group that was really kind of keen and always saying, well, what are the entries like, really set to go to do the judging. And at the same time, we thought we wanted to give some motivation to the candidates because, a prize is just a prize. So we thought, well, actually starting out with $5,000 cash doesn't help for each prize. But we also thought that that's probably not enough. And one of the great motivators was to come here at the Rio Plus 20 event and be able to network with all different people from around the world. And last but definitely not least, to have mentorship from some people who are trailblazers in this field. So we're very lucky to have as mentors to our 3 prize winners, Robin Chase, who is founder and ex-CEO of Zipcar and currently CEO of BuzzCar and named in the top 100 Time Magazine influential people. We have Ashwin Mahesh, who's the CEO of MapUnity, and he links IT and public policy to develop innovations in transportation in India, and he was named in the top 10 innovators by Wired magazine. And Jeb Bruckman, former Secretary General of ICLEI and author of Welcome to the Urban Revolution. So that was actually a particular motivation for folks. But, you know, with all this in place, we had no idea how this would go. It's a new field, it's a new connection. You know, what if we only got 3 submissions? But, and also we wanted to really get a range of new services, modes, technologies, designs, and all different financial models. And so, you know, we weren't quite sure, but we were quite surprised in the end. We got 84 entries from 25 different countries covering all the areas that we were hoping for. And so, of course, it was really hard to narrow them all down, but we eventually did. And the finalists, which you can see in your, I don't know if you have one of these brochures, but there are some out there. We brought it down to 15 finalists that all got honorable mentions. We had the Bicycle Empowerment Center, and I really encourage you to go to our website and read about these because they're very inspiring. It was so difficult to choose. If you go to www.mobiprize.com, that's probably your best bet. But Bicycle Empowerment Center, Ecolabs, EcoCabs Dial Rickshaw, G-Auto in India, Ideophone in India, Ride Amigos, which is an American IT solution, Rising Pheasant Farms, which links urban agriculture, which means not moving, and bicycle delivery of that food. Roadify, another really exciting multimodal IT solution for wayfinding. Sandvault, another bike share. Tuk Tuk Factory, an interesting electric shared vehicle. ViaCycle, a really neat technology to do bike sharing without so much infrastructure. Zagster and Z-Board, which I call Z-Board because I'm Canadian. But that is an assisted electric skateboard. So it was a whole range. And oh, I think I forgot a few people. They were the grand winners. After much deliberation, can we have a drum roll, please? Thank you. We settled on Hangzhou OmniPay, Carametas, and Zambikes. And so, without further ado, we're going to get straight to what you really came for and hear from the actual prize winners. So we'll start with Peter from Hangzhou OmniPay.
Thank you everyone. Hours to here share with you about in China, Hangzhou. Next. Our company leading a new green life. Next, we do total solution provider and also a project investor and operator. We have so many prices. This is mobile prices in 2012. Next. Next. 2 product line. One is smart sharing. It's a Chinese Shenxingbao. And another is smart payment, Yichongbao in Chinese. The first one, reform and develop current transports for renting or sharing. The second one is popularize or operate the one-pass solution. Next, we have a bike sharing system in Hangzhou, which over 2,800 self-service stations right now, And other cities like Jiangyin, Zhoushan, Dongguan, and Foshan cities, and other projects including university and other industrial parks. Next. Now, over 60,000 bicycles in Hangzhou. You got 1 hour free. So next time you go Hangzhou, you can looking for me. I will have you free bikes. If you want 2 hour free, it's fine. Just return the bike to the station and take another one. Okay. We have transaction over 100,000 per day on the public bike. Next, please. And for manual duty, big stations without parking space for bikes, we have manual people for 24-hour service working for people returning bikes or rent bikes. Next. And we are working on this year for electrical bike for longer distance or the road different kind of shape. Next. And also we develop a small product for Segway, just about Segway for rental, so people can swipe their card, calculate how much time they have been renting. Next. For car sharing, we have a pilot project pretty soon this summer in Newtown. So if you go Hangzhou, please contact me. I will show you the result. Okay, next. This is for smart charging. It's pure electrical car. We have first launch for 11 electrical cars. And this is the project for smart parking. Maybe end of this year. We are trying now, trying to set up a pilot. Next. The second product line is about the one-car solution. We have built a total system for a new town. People can use one car for open the door, for swimming pool, or for haircut, for shopping, for bike rental, even car sharing. Many things through one car. And the car itself has an account which the operator could look the accounts like us.
Working with folks around the world and listening to what they're doing and hearing what their challenges are and hearing how we can build on some of the strengths and then working together on catalyzing ways to do that. We do it in 3 general areas. Connecting the dots. There are great things going on, but how do we pull it together in a way that it benefits the user as opposed to benefits the particular mode of transportation? Second of all, moving money. So what are the economic benefits and opportunities of the transformation that we see towards sustainable transportation in a world that is over half urbanized and soon will be 3/4 to 80% urbanized? So that involves improved competitiveness, saving money, creating jobs, and creating new businesses, transforming big business like Ford Motor, thinking of itself as a mobility company rather than a car company, and small startups like iPhone apps and new services that can connect the dots. And then moving minds. How do we tell a new story about how sexy the future of transportation is? Not about how challenging, how we're going to have to make sacrifices if we all don't get to have our own cars. So it's about the next new story. So those are the 3 areas we focus on. Today, what I'm going to focus on is an approach to, once you know you want to get those things done, how do you actually get it going? How do you actually implement? So we've developed and are still developing a 4-step approach to implementing integrated multimodal IT-enhanced sustainable mobility. And it's a 4-step program because we couldn't get it up to 12 steps, and people have, their attention spans are less these days, on both ends of the demographic scale. So I'm going to go through that. So as I mentioned, we developed this in partnership with many different cities. When we said we wanted to work at the University of Michigan, which is a very multidisciplinary university, on sustainable transportation, we were invited to a number of places and began to learn what was needed and what challenges they had. So from 2006 until now, we've developed partnerships and what we're calling living labs in these places in India, South Africa, Brazil, the US, Europe, and China. And we have many sponsors and partners. Ford Motor, one of our biggest ones, trying to rethink themselves, but many IT companies and foundations. And as I mentioned, we're looking at how do we connect the dots seamlessly? How can someone more easily go from door